In 2020's Ghost of Tsushima, protagonist Jin Sakai is a samurai, part of Japan's ruling class during the Kamakura period in which the game is set. When Khotun Khan and his Mongolian army attack Jin's home island of Tsushima, the samurai is unable to repel the invading force as the noble warrior he was forged to be, and must instead sever his honor by becoming the fearsome ghost. Yet, adopting underhanded tactics to gain the edge comes at a cost, as Jin is forced to grapple with sacrificing his relationships, his moral code, and everything he once stood for in an effort to defeat an unconventional foe. In Ghost of Yotei, protagonist Atsu doesn't have to make such choices. She's not a samurai, but a wandering mercenary from an ignoble family, a family that was slaughtered at the hands of a gang of violent outlaws known as the Yotei 6. With everything taken from her, Atsu's gender and lowly status mean she has no fixed standing in Japanese society during the early 1600s. Alone and consumed by revenge, she carves her own path forward, adopting the mantle of the Onryo, a vengeful spirit from Japanese folklore that's able to inflict harm in the world of the living. Like Jin, Atsu becomes a symbol, one that strikes fear into the hearts of her enemies as her legend grows. But while this parallel is notable, it's the differences between Jin and Atsu that stand out the most. Though the game's foundation remains largely unchanged from its predecessor, the shift from samurai to roaming sellsword introduces a number of interesting changes and fresh ideas in what is a marked improvement on Ghost of Tsushima. Exploring the natural beauty of Sucker Punch's romanticized depiction of feudal Japan is enjoyable in and of itself, but the activities you'll discover are also much more meaningful than before, tying together Atsu, her home, and her family, while the precise brutality of its highly stylized combat has been expanded upon with a diverse arsenal of tools and melee weapons, resulting in tense and thrilling battles ingrained with cinematic flair. At the beginning of the game, Atsu doesn't care whether she lives or dies, so long as the Yotei 6 meet their end. But while she spent the past 16 years transforming into a fearsome warrior, the targets of her ire grew stronger too. Now, the Yotei 6 have legions of soldiers to call on, with the group's leader, the antagonistic Saito, proclaiming himself the Shogun of the North. Although Atsu is comfortable being alone and knows how to fend for herself, it becomes clear that she's an underdog and must learn to rely on others if she hopes to defeat the Yotei 6. While the world at large might perceive her as a terrifying ghost, she's also someone who's gradually shaped by the brutal cost of revenge and the influence of the people she meets.
Every blade I've ever forged has been leading to this.
A masterpiece to protect our family.
One of the more effective aspects of the narrative is Atsu's relationship with her family. Almost everything she does is influenced by them in some way. By visiting her home in specific locations, you can step into the past and revisit fond memories from her childhood, such as practicing sword fighting with her brother and working with her weaponsmith father in the family's forge. These windows into the past create further empathy for a character who eventually goes on to inflict brutal violence. You can feel the weight of her loss in each moment, and this persists throughout the game as you explore more and more. Bamboo strikes, fox dens, hot springs, and Shinto shrines return, though they're fewer in number than before. Crucially, there are also new activities that further Atsu's characterization and relationship with her family. It's easy to note the differences with Jin here once again. While he was a scholarly samurai taking contemplative moments to express himself through haikus, Atsu's interests are shaped by her upbringing. Her father taught her the art of sumie, which literally translates to black ink painting, and her love of the craft is reflected in moments when you are asked to use the DualSense's touchpad to paint the various animals and landscapes you encounter throughout your journey. Ghost of Yotei is set over 300 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima, right at the beginning of Japan's Edo period. After winning the aforementioned Battle of Sekigahara, the renowned warrior Tokugawa Ieyasu hunted down and executed anyone who opposed him, folding those who accepted into his shogunate. With so many daimyo losing their domains, around 150,000 samurai became ronin around this time, with many of those fleeing to Ezo as a place to live free from the oppressive rule of the Tokugawa shogunate. With the Yōtei 6 already causing disruption, Ezo feels a lot like the Wild West. As Atsu's fame grows, so does the number of ronin hoping to cash in on her bounty. But as a sellsword, Atsu can also take on a variety of bounty contracts herself, hunting down the island's most fearsome warriors. Many of those targets are distinct. There's one involving a murderous musician that's actually quite touching, and another about a killer who drowns his victims, akin to a kappa. Sometimes you need to use clues to figure out where they're hiding. Other times, they'll come to you, like a particular serial killer who preys on weary travelers making camp for the night. Most of these encounters conclude with an exciting one-on-one duel, but there are some unexpected outcomes too. Like much of Ghost of Yotei's side content, these bounty missions are relatively brief, but engaging. It's just a shame that a few of them are rather generic, asking you to defeat a regular enemy with an occupied camp, for instance. For a game that often avoids this pitfall, these missteps are more obvious. However, picking up bounties is just one of the ways you'll interact with Ghost of Yotei's world. The guiding wind mechanic returns from the first game, directing you to your chosen objective with gusts of wind, flying leaves, and bending grass. 5 years on, it's still the best way to navigate an open world, ensuring that you're fully absorbed in the space you're inhabiting rather than constantly staring at a minimap or objective marker. You're also more likely to spot points of interest this way, such as smoke from a campfire or an alluring building on the horizon. Atsu even has a Breath of the Wild style spyglass, which automatically adds locations to the in-game map once you've spotted them through the telescopic lens. It's a great way to make you pay attention to your surroundings and internalize key landmarks. The people of Ezo are eager to share information too. Upon arriving in a new village, a merchant might tell you about an onsen that's not too far away. You can set up camp to eat food and craft ammo, and a passerby may join you and mention a fox den, while interrogating an enemy could reveal a nearby camp. Your exploration is gently guided, but it feels very natural. Instead of looking at a map filled with markers, you're left to discover things on your own, even if you're sometimes nudged in the right direction. You are peering into the world rather than staring at a UI, so there's an inherent sense of discovery that persists throughout the game and is very rewarding.
Wolf den and more hunters.
Great plains stretch as far as the eye can see. Lakes and streams and the wetlands reflect the glistening moon, and the sea violently clashes against the jagged cliffs on the coast. Vibrant red and auburn trees sit atop rolling green hills. Cherry blossom trees paint the south of the island pink, while the north is blanketed in freezing ice and snow. Duels are frequently framed against a backdrop of picturesque mountains, turgid waterfalls, and centuries-old trees, their branches twisting around like undulating rivers. Colorful butterflies, dragonflies, and flower petals swirl as steel clashes, caught in the hollowing wind, and each purposeful step forward kicks up fallen leaves and splashes of water. It's the hunt for the Yōtei 6 that brings you to almost every corner of the island, where you'll also discover more about each member of the gang as you plot out their demise. The Oni, for instance, resides in a hilltop castle overlooking the entire Ishikari plain. He's a mountain of a man with an army behind him, so the burned villages and widows left in their wake reveal his abject cruelty. The Kitsune, on the other hand, works in the shadows. As the head of a clan of shinobi, their methods are more clandestine, forcing you to solve puzzles to uncover secret hideouts. Their foot soldiers emerge from beneath the snow, and the terror they inflict on the people of Teshio Ridge isn't as obvious as the Oni's fire and brimstone approach, with millers and blacksmiths simply disappearing in the night. Ghost of Yotei's mission design is similarly varied, whether you're posing as an anonymous bounty hunter to infiltrate a fortress or pursuing a target through a mountain range as they pepper you with gunfire. And that's just the main story missions. Side quests take you on a few unexpected adventures involving rumors to terrifying yokai, a brush with a near-indestructible bear, and some enlightening platforming with Ezo's indigenous Ainu people. The end result is often the same. You'll typically utilize stealth or combat to solve most problems. But there's much more flavor than before, making for a more interesting game from one moment to the next, as it ditches the rigidity that frequently plagued Ghost of Tsushima's mission design. Combat is also improved and molded once again by Atsu's singular nature. She fights to win by any means necessary, even if that means picking up a fallen enemy's weapon and throwing it through another's chest, chucking dirt into her opponent's eyes, or lighting her weapon on fire to break through a staunch defense. She's also not averse to using a variety of different melee weapons, trading Jin's 4 katana stances for 5 distinct armaments. You begin with a katana, and then by visiting various teachers, gradually unlock an odachi, a kasaragama, dual katanas, and a ari spear. There's a rock, paper, scissors dynamic in play where certain weapons are better suited against particular enemies and their chosen equipment. The Kasuarigama, for instance, can destroy shields with consecutive blows from its heavy attack, while the relentless speed of dual katanas is ideal for dealing with opponents yielding yari. As one of your teachers puts it, every weapon can kill but won't necessarily always shine. Ghost of Yotei's stealth is played fast and loose. It's more about taking out everybody as quickly and violently as possible rather than slipping by unnoticed. Chaining together assassinations never tires, and using the Kasurigama to yank enemies out of sight is particularly satisfying. The stealthy route might be relatively uncomplicated for the most part, but that doesn't prevent how enjoyable it is to sweep through an enemy camp as a silent assassin. Ghost of Yotei builds and improves upon its predecessor with a gripping story, rewarding exploration, and fantastic combat, with each aspect emphasizing the characteristics of a new protagonist. As a sequel, familiarity is baked in, but every alteration is in service of Atsu and her profound differences, making for a game that manages to feel distinct even when what you're doing is so recognizable. The ghost is just a mask. What matters is who's behind it.